This is day 10 of 30-day articulation practice challenge, and for today, I'd like to share a book that has had a profound impact on me. And I'd like to start my story with a background story. So that was back in 2016, 2017, when I moved to the US for the first time, and I was enrolled at school, at college, as a full-time student. While I was a full-time student, I was employed as a full-time employee. In the morning, I would be at school taking 3-4 classes at a time, up to 6 classes, because I had to fulfill 12 credit hours. Whereas in the afternoon, I would be going to my job, where I would work as a waiter at a restaurant. And the cycle would continue 5-6 days a week. So I would be in school 5 days a week, and as soon as I'm done with school, just go straight to work. And as I'm done with work, come home and work on homework, prepare for assignments, or prepare for any kind of exam or presentations. So this cycle continued for quite a while. And initially, I was extremely motivated to be in school, be a full-time student, and at the same time, having a job was motivating me to work harder at a job so I can earn money to pay for my school, and at the same time, seeing how hard it is in the real world, that struggle was pushing me academically at school. Apparently, one can do such thing for so long. So what happened was, on my sophomore year, in my second or third year at school, I was going through some difficulties with my mental health and with my physical condition, physical health, and also my financial situation. And at that time, I was going through some rough patches of my life. I was going through some dark times. And to make the matters worse, I was in the US all by myself. I did not have anybody to rely on, any shoulder to cry on, any friend that I would call a friend that I'm willing to share my personal struggles. Yes, I have had some acquaintances that we would hang out time to time, but it was not so much of a value. So I was going through rough patches for quite a bit of time, and I'm ashamed to admit it was even the times of despair, I would say. And at that time, I didn't know whom or what to rely on. And I would be trying to find motivational podcasts or audiobooks or anything that would get me through the day. And at that time, I came across the guy named Elliot Hulse. He had a YouTube channel that I would be listening to, and he would be promoting masculine energy. And he will be motivating younger people like me at the time to take charge, to take control, to do the job to the fullest extent. And if you're in school, to do your homework, to be active in the classes. So again, to the fullest extent at school. For some time, he was doing the magic, listening to his podcast or watching his videos that they were giving me enough motivation. But after some time, I do not know how, but I came across Jordan B. Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist in a Canadian university. I do not know exactly what university, and I believe as of right now, he does not teach any class or he does not conduct any mental health. He doesn't have any clients that he works with as a clinician. But at that time, I came across his lectures, and he was talking a lot about responsibility, encouragement, and I will be listening to his lectures, listening to his podcasts, and listening to his interviews. I even remember downloading his interview with Jocko Willink. And at that time, they were discussing his brand new book, 12 Rules for Life. And they were talking and discussing how the importance of responsibility improves one's ability to take charge and improves his ability for leadership and overall improves the level of his life. And I was quite intrigued by this book, even though I haven't read anything. So I decided to get one for myself. Even though there are 12 rules, there were 3 particular rules that stood out for me. Those are, the first rule, stand up straight with your shoulders back. I believe the second one is the 4th rule. That is, do not compare yourself to someone else's today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And the last one, I believe it's rule number 8 or 9, that says, speak the truth, at least don't lie. So I'm going to start with this first one, which says, stand up straight with your shoulders back. So in that chapter, he was discussing how our nervous system is very similar to the nervous system of the lobsters, and how we organize ourselves in a dominance hierarchy, just like lobsters. And he was discussing how, let's say there are 10 levels of lobster hierarchy. If you're at the bottom, you're level 10, but if you're at the top, you're level 1. So the top lobster has the highest amount of serotonin in his brain, whereas the lowest one, the ranked 10th one, has the lowest amount of serotonin in his body. And as a matter of fact, if 2 lobsters get into a fight, the winner lobster produces more serotonin in his body, whereas the loser lobster produces more, I believe, stress-related hormone. And the winner lobster automatically expands himself. And the same with the top dog lobster. So number 1 lobster always stretching himself out, showing the other lobsters who the boss is. And he was comparing how the same analogy can be applied for humans. Meaning, if a human can stand up straight with the shoulders back, it will have automatically physio-psychological effect. So that when you stand up straight, you automatically command more respect. And you respect yourself more as well. And also, it's a position of openness, and you might be vulnerable. But if I'm like this, I might be more protected. But if I'm standing like this, I might be more vulnerable. But at the same time, I'm more expanded. I'm taking up more space, and I am more visible compared to hiding. And other primates and other people can see my posture, and without even talking to me, they can determine whether they can trust me or whether I am perceived as a confident person. Believe it or not, I tried it myself, and I have had a compound effect. Meaning, like for example, I would just solely focus on standing up straight with my shoulders back in. I would try to implement it while I was at school, while I was at work. And also, it have had a ripple effect. So much so that when I'm standing up straight with my shoulders back, I would act more confident. I would talk more confident. And I would come across as more confident just because I just tweaked my posture. And also, I could feel that I am becoming more aligned with myself. Instead of shying away from the things, I was more prone to facing them with heads on. And I could see, I can't say it was a dramatic change, but I could see and I could feel the difference by the way other people were treating me and by the way how I was feeling about myself. I was more confident intrinsically and extrinsically. And also it was helping me with my articulation because, meaning the ability to express myself. Since English is my third language, at school I initially struggled with expressing myself. Considering my accent, this is my third language and I'm an outcast in a small school of 1,200 students and there are only maybe like 15 to 20 international students. So that had put me in a little bit more uncomfortable situation, but with the help of just simple strategy of standing up straight with my shoulders back has helped me, well, we can say tremendously. So that's the first one. The second one is compare yourself who you were yesterday, not someone else's today. You know, that got me really thinking because we always look up to other people, aspire to them, we're inspired by them, and we compare ourselves to those people, especially on social media, and we get to see only their brightest side, only their happiest moments, and we compare ourselves daily neutral condition to their happiest, to their best under the light scenarios. And that comparison is actually a thief of joy. And as a matter of fact, you start feeling worse about yourself because you start comparing and you start seeing that this guy had already bought a house, this guy bought a new car, or they started a family while you're fucking it up. You're not doing nothing with your life. But if you actually start digging a little deeper and start comparing yourself who you were yesterday, you start noticing the differences. Like for example, I did not start this articulation practice a week ago, but comparatively to the week ago, I am slightly, maybe 10%, maybe 15%, I'm able to express my opinion and my thoughts and my ideas a little bit more coherently now. And the same with my physical aspect. I recently picked up boxing, and if I didn't do boxing, I would stay the same where I am. I used to be, but with the help of boxing, we're improving incrementally. I'm not saying that I'm going to be Mike Tyson one day, but I can reach my fullest potential, my own fullest potential, not someone else's. And the last rule that had a profound impact on me was speak the truth, at least don't lie. That was another important rule that I started noticing when I spoke the truth, despite the discomfort. I thought initially that people would have a negative reaction. But believe it or not, they had a negative reaction maybe for like 5 seconds, but then they came back to me and they appreciated me for telling them the truth. Even though I was mentally preparing myself for an argument, after I told them the truth, they would take it, probably they would get angry or upset for a second because I could tell from their, facial expressions. And after realizing that they've been told the truth, they would change their perspective and they would come and they would thank me for telling them the truth. I mean, it didn't happen very often, but there were certain scenarios where I was 100% sure that they would argue with me. Instead, they came back and they just thanked me and they moved on with whatever they were doing. And another interesting factor is that was interaction with other people. What you have to learn is to speak the truth to yourself as well. Because sometimes we like to deceive ourselves with different stuff about productivity, about being busy, about work, or about family matters. The truth of the matter is you have to be willing to look where you do not want to look. Because that's where the thing that you most want is going to be. And the ability to speak in the truth, I feel like it's a huge factor that displays a integrity of the person.